Hello, welcome, and thank you for coming to today's presentation for Cybersecurity Awareness Month on corporate, organizational, device, and personal security. And we're going to cover a lot of different things today. But I do want to say that today's presentation is sponsored by the BMBA, the Berksmont Business Association, and the Boyertown Community Library. And we are here live in the library right now for those that are online or watching the recording. And I thank them very much for their help today. So who are we? We are STCN Tech, the Techsperts. We are experts in technology, the technologies we offer. With over 30 years of experience among all of us here at STCN Tech, we've worked across numerous numerous industries. No injuries here. I probably have a couple stories about that, but we won't talk about that. We have hands-on real-world experience with tech that you use, all the major names. What we don't do is get involved with tech that we don't have experience with. And so that's a really big differentiator between us and other organizations. We hold numerous certifications and are cybersecurity experts. And we have likely worked in or with an organization just like yours, and that includes nonprofits, education, finance, insurance, healthcare, all sorts of different organizations that we have helped secure and make their networks do what they're supposed to do. So what are we talking about today? So this presentation is originally set for October, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we follow NIST's recommendations. That's the National Institute of Science and Technology. That is the government IT people, for lack of a better group, IT and security people. And we are here talking about it because each year billions of records are exposed, billions with a B. It grows every year. More organizations are compromised every single year, and we'll throw some real numbers out in a minute. But the Cybersecurity Awareness Month exists in order to raise awareness about the security threats and the things you can do to keep yourself secure. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what NIST's recommendations are, and then a little bit of how we apply them. We don't necessarily apply them one for one because different organizations have different needs. We're going to talk about some of the threats that are out there. We are going to talk a little bit about the difference between antivirus, EDR, and MDR, because when you start to talk about securing an organization as opposed to your home computer, there's a difference between the products that exist, and there's a difference between why you need something different than just a simple antivirus program. We're going to talk about passwords, password managers, multi-factor authentications, ways to secure your account through these methods. Software updates, we're going to talk about a little bit about, but more to the point of securing your device in the best possible way. We're going to talk about phishing. We're going to talk about a thing called Stop, Think, and Connect. And then we're going to talk about how we, the Techsperts, help you do all of these things in your organization without you even really thinking about it. So let's move to the next area. We're going to talk a little bit about NIST. NIST's mission is to promote American innovation and industrial competitiveness, and it does this by ensuring that all of the American companies, industries have a level of awareness of what the set of standards are operationally, and operational standards include security, physical security, digital security, from one end to the next. And while we won't talk about physical security today, it is very important. It's important to have cameras. It's important to have card swipes. It's important to know who goes where in your office. So they publish standards for cybersecurity. They've been doing this since 2004. And here are the recommendations that we are going to talk about. First recommendation we're going to talk about today is strong passwords and password managers. We're not really going to talk about passwords. We're going to talk about passphrases. And you'll see why when we get there. Multi-factor authentication. It's essential today. It is just essential. You have to have it. The companies that are out there, the stores that are out there that are selling you things online that do not offer it are going to start having some real issues with customers ordering from them in the coming time, because multi-factor authentication reduces your threat of your account being compromised by 99%. Not my number, that's NIST's number, not mine. Keep your operating system and applications updated. So super annoying, right? Updates, but you have to do them. They say you should educate your staff, everybody you know, on threats, phishing, malware, the things that are a problem. Education is actually the biggest piece of the puzzle, and that's what we're doing here today. This is education. This is why we're recording this. This is why we have these events, for educational purposes. They came up with Stop, Think, Connect, which, like I said, we'll cover. And all of these items are things that a managed technology service provider like us can help you with. We can help implement them, we can help put them in place, and then help you forget they exist. Let's talk about the threats. The top 3 threats, according to the Identity Theft Resource Center, and at the end of the day, this is all about your data. This is all about stealing your identity and your data. That's what they want. Your information is money. Individuals are the #1 problem. The #1 threat are people. Negligence is really the key reason. You just don't really realize what you're doing when you do it sometimes. Disgruntled employees, if you all remember the biggest, I was going to say the first time, but the biggest data leak that Sony had a few years ago, that was an angry employee who gave someone all of that information, including mine. And a lack of education. You just don't know. You just don't know. That email looks awfully good. I'm gonna click on it. The second is external threats, hacking and phishing. So those are bundled together because hacking and phishing are external threats, sort of, because they originate from the outside. But then your lack of education allows phishing to do what it does. And then they attack everybody from the inside. Contractors or vendors via open doors, unmonitored access. So this is really big. Most people don't even think about this. You have somebody in doing drywall work in your office, or maybe they're laying carpet, or maybe they're the printer repair guy. And you're just working away, doing what it is that you do, not realizing that your monitor faces the door, and anybody standing in your doorway can read what's on your monitor. Happens all the time, happens every day. I don't remember, was it mid-90s into the mid-2000s, they used to sell those screens you put on your monitors so people couldn't do that. I don't even think do they even sell those anymore? I don't even know if I've seen them. I can tell you that the offices I go in, nobody has them. So I don't know what happened to them. But those are big. And people will have somebody say working on the air conditioning and then walk away and leave them alone to work on it. I mean, maybe you know them, maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, that unmonitored access can lead to somebody wandering into an office and seeing a folder open that they shouldn't see open. And that is a data breach too. That's not a digital data breach, but still, your patient information that somebody sees open still is. And legally, they're supposed to report it if it's that kind of a breach. But we're talking about in 2023, breaches were up by 35%. We've been seeing 15, 20, 25, 30% increases every year. More than 17 billion records were exposed. The cost of remediation is about $300 per record. That's per record. A record, though, and I'll give you a little caveat, a record could be anything. It could be your name and address. That's a record. It could be your name and social security number. That's a record. It could be your credit card information. That's a record. So while we say 17 billion records, 300 of them could be my records. Oops. But it's me. So So it's 301 divided by 17. I don't know. It's a lot of math. I'm not doing math today. But it's still a lot of records. And the thing that I always like to say when I talk about this is these are the reported ones. We have no idea how many aren't reported. There's no way to track that. Someone gets hit with ransomware, they pay the ransom, they get their stuff back, they never tell anybody. They hit with ransomware, they erase everything, start over, they don't tell anybody. Well, on that one, you probably have to tell people. But the point is, not everybody reports it. We know not everybody reports it. There's been a lot more reporting going on because when you report it, your insurance company covers it. If you get ransomware, the FBI has been really good about helping people get their money back. Right? I don't really want to quote a number, but I would say it's somewhere in the half where they can get half the money back if somebody actually pays the ransom. Now our solutions make it so you'll never get ransomware. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Our solutions make it so that you'll never be shut down by ransomware. You can't guarantee you'll never get it. That's not possible. But what we can do is guarantee that if you get it today, you'll be online tomorrow at the latest. No question about it. Let's talk a little bit about protection. Antivirus versus EDR versus MDR. And we have all of those things. Most people think of protection as antivirus. Well, I have an antivirus program. It came with my computer. That's fantastic. I have McAfee, came with my computer, and I've had my computer for 2 years, and I got a virus. How did that happen? Well, when you get your computer with your antivirus program, it's a free year. And then you have to pay for it after that for it to continually get updated. So here's the difference. Antivirus and malware products detect, protect, and remote malicious software on your device. They're based on database definitions that they get from their provider. So McAfee gets it from McAfee, Norton from Norton, AVG. They all have their own set of databases that they use to say, I know this file does this and acts this way. That's bad. Don't do that. And it'll stop it as long as it knows about it. But just to know about it. And in the best circumstances, the worst attacks, these companies take a day to figure it out. You will rarely see what they call a 0-day release from a McAfee or Norton or Symantec. And a 0-day just means that they've responded with a solution on the same day that it happened. There's just too many moving parts to do that. Because you have to see it, and then you have to, say, how do we stop it? Okay, here's how we stop it. Now we got to put it in our product. And now we got to push it out to everybody. So all of those things take time. And that's where we come to a product like EDR. EDR is endpoint detection and response. This is something that sits in conjunction with your antivirus, and in a lot of ways can replace it because our EDR actually does antivirus activities. And it's based on what's called the fingerprint of activity. So a fingerprint is exactly what it sounds like. I see something here that is just like something else I saw. So I know that behavior is a problem. It works based on a fingerprint of behavior on your device. If, for example, an EDR can stop a ransomware attack because once it sees the ransomware hit, it says, wait, I know what that is. I'm going to stop it because I know the behavior. And it doesn't matter how many flavors of ransomware are out. As long as they behave very similarly, which is the drop down, then they sit on your machine, and then they say, okay, now's a good time, and then they start encrypting your files. Once it sees that activity, it stops it. So that you're never actually impacted by the ransomware. Now, we're not saying that ransomware can't change the way it behaves. It certainly can, but EDR is dynamic enough that it responds to those things quickly. And the worst thing you get out of it is, okay, some of your files got encrypted, but then it stopped it. So maybe you lost a folder, and as long as you have a good backup, who cares? And our backup systems will stop backing up when they see that behavior. So they won't back up the ransomware. So EDR looks for fingerprints of activity. It stops it, and then it pops up on your screen. It would send us an email and say, whoops, we saw something, you might want to check it out. And then it tells us, was it quarantined? Was it blocked? Was it deleted? It tells us all of those things. MDR is the next step above that because you actually have a team of people who watch it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It takes the idea of EDR, adds another layer of security on top of it because it can see things a little bit faster. And then there's some dude in a call center watching it who just got an alert that your workstation has Bob's ransomware on it. Or more specifically, it sees that something on one machine tried to create a new user account and put it in an admin group automatically through a script activity or a bot activity, and it stops it, and then it tells them, and then they call us. They call us at 1 in the morning, they call us at 7 in the afternoon, in the evening, then they call us. They tell us, listen, we're seeing this here. Do you know about it? If you don't, we respond. If we do, then we say, yeah, it's fine. Sometimes it's fine. We have a client that has our MDR that regularly adds and removes people from a group that has an administrative rights on one of the servers we monitor. I know that they do that. So we don't really pay, we look and we say, okay, I know those names, or I know that format. It's fine. We just move on. The point is that when you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, somebody watching your systems, the potential for you to get hit and lose data and then have your data sent somewhere else is so insignificantly small. And this is the way we protect systems and networks. Everybody needs antivirus. Please don't misunderstand me. Everybody needs that. You should never think you don't have it. Windows comes with Windows Defender. It's a nice start. You put something that's on top of it, and you're pretty good. Mac OS does not come with anything, so you definitely want to make sure that if you have a Mac, you're out there putting something on it to protect it. The idea that Macs don't get hit with this stuff is absolutely not true. And today, we don't worry about viruses. We worry about things getting attached to your web browser and dropping bots on your computer. Those are not viruses. Viruses do things to your computer you don't want them to do. Bots just take information and do funny things with it. Or, I'm sorry, things you don't want done with it. And we offer them all in one package. We manage them, we make sure you're safe and secure, and then we respond when something happens. Let's talk a little bit about passwords. Well, we stopped calling them passwords because the longer the password is exponentially harder to brute force hack. So brute force hacking is just trying over and over and over again, or using a program that tries different combinations of things. And the more complex your password, it's a little bit harder for it to guess, but not really. That's not really the key. The key is the length. So you get to 9, 10 characters long, 11 characters long. They're really unhackable. But hacking is not your biggest problem. When I glossed over the idea of external hacking in that one slide because it's not a huge problem anymore. Because what happens is they'll give us a try, your account will get locked. That's what happens. Your account gets locked. You try to log in, you're like, darn it, I thought I knew my password. And then you reset your password and everything's happy. But when we talk about phrases, we make them long, difficult to guess, and dynamic. And what I mean by dynamic, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, is this idea that you can use a really long 12, 13, 14, 15 character password and remember it because it's a phrase. It's not a password. It's not some ridiculous combination of letters and numbers that nobody ever remembers at all. We say don't use personally identifiable information, so don't. I will tell you that all of my password, every password that I have is based on my favorite album. So if you don't know what that is, it's a non-starter then. Even if you do, you're still not going to guess what it is. The only way you're going to get it is if it's in a data leak. That's how you're going to get my password. And that's how they're going to get your password, and that is how they get your password. And so by making them something that you remember, reference something you remember. So we say don't use your kids' names. We say don't use your dog's names. But let's say you're like, forget that. I can't remember anything about my dog's name. Fine. If it's Fluffy, have it be Fluffy. You absolutely can have it be Fluffy. So here's how we do it without writing them down. Did I use Fluffy? I used Rover. Sorry, I used Rover in the slide. Well, I usually do use Fluffy for some reason. I don't know why. I've never had an animal named Fluffy. I've never had one named Rover either. But take two different ideas and put them together. The two different ideas are something you identify with and what you're doing. Right? So you identify with your dog, Rover. Does anyone name their dog Rover anymore? Okay. Very 50s thing to do, I guess. But take your dog, Rover, and then what are you doing? So I'm shopping on Amazon. So Rover retail, right? Because I'm shopping, retail. You can use the word shopping, you can use whatever word you want. It doesn't matter. The point is that what I've done, and this was very simple, is I've used capital letters, an exclamation, and a number. What does a number mean? I don't know. It might mean something to you. It might not. The one thing you don't want to do is use numbers incrementally or the year. Those are two numbers that are easy to guess. So if I get your password, and your password that I got was Rover Retail 20, I'm going to try 21. Because that's what people do. That's human nature. Now, if you used, say, Rover Retail 62, well, the engine in my car is a 6.2 liter engine. Okay, fine, I'll remember that. And I'm shopping, so it's retail, and Rover's my dog. That's easy to remember. Moving around the exclamation point and stuff like that, I can do that anytime because that's not hard to remember either. DoorDash, Rover Yummy, right? So these are M's, the hash signs, the pound signs, whatever we call them these days. Facebook, Rover Online Family, right? So it's really long, but how can you not remember that? All you have to do is remember where you changed the characters. That's all you have to remember. But you know your password. Now, I don't use Rover Retail everywhere I shop. I might use Rover Shopping. I might use Rover Bullseye for Target. I might use, I don't know, Rover Blue Light for Kmart. I don't know, whatever. The point is, it connects back to what you're doing. And you can have it be really complicated like the Facebook thing here, or really simple. The complexity just makes it like the club in the 90s. You didn't steal the car because it was a little harder than the one that doesn't have the club. So if they don't have your password already from a data leak, you're okay. And we'll talk about it in a minute, add MFA, multi-factor authentication to that, your account's good because even if they have your password, multi-factor authentication stops them. And we'll talk about when it doesn't when we get to that slide. But so what do you do when you have 400 passwords, which is what I'm suggesting, because you don't reuse your passwords anywhere else, right? Passphrases got to be at one place. You can't use them twice. But you can use the same basic one. You want to periodically change your passwords. Why do you think you want to periodically change your passphrase? Because it gets leaked, because of a data leak. So you periodically change your passwords because there's a potential that that password is out there if you've had it for a long time. I mean, NIST, going back to NIST recommendations, NIST actually recommends if your password is complex and more than 10 characters, so complex means using 3 of the 4 character types that I just showed you, they say you don't ever need to change your password because it's unhackable. But hacking's not what we're concerned with. We're concerned with you clicking on a link and putting your password into a form and giving it away, because that's what people do. So we talked about data breaches. I mentioned Sony, and those are big data problems, don't get me wrong. But they're not the ones that they're after. They're after making you fill out a form online and just give it to them because you want the free robe from Macy's that doesn't actually exist. My wife just sent me was it a Lego Cinderella castle? I don't know. It was a Cinderella castle from Macy's that was, it's like $200 Lego set if you're into Legos. It's like it's expensive. And Macy's had it on sale for $49. And she sent it over to me in a text message, and I said, that is not Macy's. The URL, the address was not Macy's. The website looked really good though. It was actually Macy's website. I mean, I'm sorry, it looked exactly like Macy's website, except when you went to Macy's website, you couldn't find it. That thing didn't exist if you go to Macy's.com. But the link she followed took her there. You click on that, you put in your name, your address, your credit card number. Oh, I'm sorry, your credit card's been denied. What do you mean my credit card's been denied? Let me try it again. Hey, John, let me try the credit card again. And still, the credit card is denied, and you've just confirmed that that is your correct credit card number and your username and your password and your address, so they can go buy their own Lego Cinderella castle if they want. But they really just go and sell it because that's where the money is. I mentioned passphrases shouldn't be used in the same place. Do not give anyone else your passphrase. This is something that we work very hard with some of our clients on because they love to share accounts. So you guys run that call with that one client where I was like, well, you really can't do that. But why? Well, because then you don't know who's got the password. Don't write it down. You have 48 passwords, like we just said, 48 passphrases, and we went over how to remember them, but it's still a lot. Well, and that's why we provide things like Keeper to our clients. Keeper is a digital password locker that remembers your passwords for you. You put your password in, Keeper says, hey, do you want me to remember that? You say yes, and Keeper does. So you really, in theory, don't ever need to know your password. Keeper will generate passwords for you too. I still like to know my passwords. I don't like to have to get them from Keeper. But again, if you have there are plenty of times that I know what my password is, and I go into Keeper and I look like, oh, no, it's not. Something else. It happens all the time, especially on those websites that don't conform to the standards that I just laid out. They don't allow you to use 3 of the 4 types or something like that. And there are some that are like that still. I don't know why, but they still exist. Then use MFA whenever possible. This combination of things virtually guarantees your accounts won't get hacked. They still get breached, but they won't get hacked. Yes, you can.
I have 2 everything.
Okay.
One group, I still have perfume and one heel. Pretty much up for the other. And the other is my dad's name and when he passed. I have them for everything. I have them all stored in my phone or in Google.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, is that?
Okay, so so quite often when I start talking about this, people will ask, well, can't Keeper or LastPass or OnePass get breached? So we'll start there and then I'll get to that. Okay. LastPass, OnePass have had breaches. They've not had password database breaches. They've They have had names and addresses compromised, but not password lockers. So while I won't say they can't be breached, they haven't been. Their encryption is twice the normal strength of encryption that you get on a database. Because they actually don't live on your computer, if your computer gets compromised, somebody needs to know how to get into Keeper or LastPass to get that information. Now, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, they offer to store passwords. And I don't think I say anything about that in here. I don't. They offer to store passwords. You should not do this. So going back 3 or 4 years, they were just plain text on your computer. Anybody who got access to that folder could see all your passwords. There was nothing keeping them from doing that other than not being on your computer. It's gotten better than that. That's not the way it is anymore. The databases that Chrome, Edge, and Firefox and Safari keep are encrypted, and Safari is a little different. They are encrypted. They're still not encrypted at the level that a Keeper is or a LastPass is. And we provide Keeper, but LastPass and OnePass are perfectly fine products. So we strongly recommend you don't do that. 2 reasons. One, the database is less secure. And if I have access to your computer, I can keep trying to hack it and you won't know. Keeper, LastPass, OnePass, the database doesn't actually live on your computer. It's got a pull. You can make it live on your computer. I don't recommend that either, because they do have some levels of offline access in these products. So we don't recommend that. What did I say? So I said, did I cover both things? I got lost. Well, you'd want to change the password on the password locker as well. And you want to use multi-factor authentication on the password locker as well. So you want to pile all that up. So products like Keeper and LastPass also have a nuclear reaction, as I think Keeper calls it. If you get the password wrong 3 times, it deletes all your passwords. So back it up too. Make sure you have a backup. That's another piece of the puzzle. But and it does, and it tells you one more try, and then we're going to delete your stuff. And then you're like, wait a second, I better stop for a minute and really think about this. It locks it. Yes.
That's why I have my face and my finger, because I can't remember my password.
Well, right.
If it can't remember my face and my finger, I'm in trouble. But like, so my password I've had since 2011 at Perkiomen,
Yes.
I might have for 50 things.
Well, it's out there.
Changed it.
It's out there somewhere.
You should never use the same password for every computer.
Right. So you don't reuse it because it gets out there somewhere, right? So if you had an account with Sony, it's out there. If you had an account with Microsoft, it's out there. If you have an account with Target, it's out there. These are all companies that have been breached and have had these things released to the public out in the wild. It's out there.
So when my cell phone said, I think it said like I have 38 corruption with this password. I should.
You should absolutely change it. And I don't know if LastPass and OnePass do that, but Keeper will go out and tell you, I found your password places. You better deal with it.
My McAfee script does.
Yeah, I mean, there's other products that do that, but Keeper does it. Windows Defender does it. If you have Defender attached to Office 365, there's products out there that do it. Our product, Guards, goes out and does it. There's lots of ways to do it, but you have to pay attention to it. And I'll do that. Like I'll get an alert and I'll look and I'll go, oh, that password's from 10 years ago. I haven't used that password in forever. I don't care. But the point is that I know.
You can use the same passwords, but for each different site, like if that's what you want to use as your basis, just for every site that you're at, just change the character to a number. Or if
Things like that. Yeah.
To a character, but so for every site, using that base of your password, just make sure that each site there's a different rendition of your password is, but still using your principal. So like your 2011, you could do 20 exclamation, or you could do 20, capital L or something like that.
Right.
You can. And again, that keeps them memorable. So you don't have, the last thing you want to do is write them down on sticky notes. If you're going to write them down, we're using Keeper.
Oh, so the book I have in my drawer really shouldn't be there?
Shouldn't be there.
And my phone shouldn't be there either?
Well, it depends on how you have it in your phone. I know people who just like open, the note-taking app in their phone and just put their passwords in. I'm like, it's not the best way to do it.
I do have it in my note, but you can lock, the page is locked.
Is it password protected or fingerprint protected or
Yes,
whatever?
no, I have a code.
Okay, so you have a code. So that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So for like our Android devices, we have this called secure lock. There's a secure folder and you
Yeah.
don't want anybody to see it. So someone actually hacked into my phone or grabbed my phone and can get into it with a passcode. If they don't know my secure folder password or my biometrics or anything, then you can store stuff in there.
You can, but then you're reliant on the operating system to not have a vulnerability that you don't know about. I'm just pointing that out, that when we put all our eggs in one basket, sometimes the basket gets a hole in it. And so the way our products work is we use different products to do different things. So listen, because none of them are perfect. But when you take the package and you look at the package, that's where you catch it. Because if one thing has a problem, it doesn't see it, the other thing doesn't, and vice versa. And that keeping your phone, your tablet, your computer up to date is essential because of those things. Because what you'll do is you'll be doing your thing perfectly happy, and then you'll get a message saying that there's an update that addresses these vulnerabilities, and you're like, well, I didn't even know it was a problem, because nobody knew it was a problem, until they knew. But they knew it was a problem because somebody exposed the vulnerability by hacking through something or by dropping malware on something that showed them, uh-oh, we have a problem, now we're going to fix it. Yeah. So oops. So let's talk about multi-factor authentication. I said earlier that it secures your accounts by like 99%, right? Multi-factor authentication is using more than one thing to prove to a system that you know who you say you are. And that can include, click here to prove you're not a robot. That actually counts as a factor of authentication to some extent. For actual account authentication, that's fallen out of favor. Used to be that I remember like 10 years ago, my bank did it where they choose a picture. And when you log in, if it's not the picture you chose, something's wrong. Like, okay, well, whatever. People don't do that. MFA generally uses something you know, like your password, and something you have, like a code they text message to you, or a code you got through an authenticator app, or something, or less secure, a code they emailed to you. That's more than one factor of information that authenticates you are who you say you are, and you can prove it. You're probably already doing it with a bunch of places, but you should do it pretty literally everywhere if you can. Because I know that, I don't remember where it was, but I remember one place about a year ago, forced multi-factor authentication. I'm like, oh, what do I need here for? Like, I literally don't do anything, but you do have my name, you do have my address, and you do have my password, so I guess I need it. And if that's all it has, you still need it because that information should be secured. And then you're secure, whether they're secure is another issue. Whether their backend is secure. And that backend, those data breaches that happen are because they don't have or didn't have the security that we talk about. They don't have EDR, they don't have MDR, or they haven't educated the people who work for them to not click on the forms and fill them out. And if you want cyber insurance for your company, you have to have multi-factor authentication. You won't get it otherwise. Been like that for a couple of years. Oh, so multi-factor authentication, that 1%, right? So here's how multi-factor authentication can be hacked. A couple of ways. So the email seems obvious. If your email address is not secured through MFA, and I have access to it, and you're using MFA to secure, using email MFA, and some places only do that. So I'm not saying it's terrible. What I'm saying is it's the least secure way, because once I have access to your email address, I can literally do anything to any of those accounts. I'm now you, nobody knows anything. By the time you figure it out, it's way too late. So when they email you the code. So that's one way that it's not perfect. And obviously, it's not a good idea to secure your email account with MFA through email, right? Because then you need another email account. Most people don't do that. Text message is the second least secure way. People can clone your SIM card. Well, tell me, it absolutely happens. It doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not easy to do. You have to have the equipment, but trust me, people do. And by the time you figure it out, it is way too late, because you'll pick up your phone, it'll say no signal, or I forget exactly what it doesn't say, no service. It'll say no service, and you'll try to make a call and it'll fail. You'll say, and then you'll try to make another call and it'll fail. And eventually you'll get around to telling your cell company. It might be right away, it might be half an hour later. But at the moment it stops working is the moment they have it. So that time that it takes you to figure it out and actually call T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon. Now you can do that from your cell phone, that'll still work. but you can't call anybody else. And for them to say, oh, are you in Boston? No, I'm not in Boston. Like, your phone is. Okay, well, that's not me. Stop it. So that half an hour, 45 minutes is way enough time for them to get into your email, start changing your passwords, start grabbing your information, start ordering bottles of rum and having them delivered somewhere else because they're going to have a good time and you're not going to have a good time. So that can absolutely happen. But again, it requires equipment. It requires know-how. It's not as easy as just taking your data from somewhere else. And then the authenticator apps. They're the most secure level of multi-factor authentication. Because the way the authenticator apps communicate with services is encrypted and tunneled. So tunneled means it's a private communication channel. Now they can still spoof that. They can still intercept those communications. And it's happening more often now. Microsoft's had a problem with it, Google's had a problem with it. But again, we're not at a point to where it's this huge issue yet. And there are things you can do in Google and in Microsoft's ecosystem to make them a non-event. If you lock down Office 365 with conditional access policies that say, well, Matthew can only sign into his account in this area. Well, that pretty much takes care of everything. Because that person in Russia is never going to get in. Even if they have your phone cloned and all of those things, they're still not going to get in because that's not an acceptable place to log in from. That's just one easy way to do it. Now, we have a client that said no to that. Can't do it, people travel. Okay. But again, that's one answer. There's other answers as well. You know, our product guards tells us when people log in from unusual places. They'll email us and say, MJ logged in from Texas. Is that okay? From Dallas, Texas. I don't know if it's okay. We'd have to ask MJ. I'm not sure. But at least you know. And you can say, are they there or are they not there? And that is another level of protection as well. So that's the way MFA is not perfect. And nothing's perfect. It's this combination of things that help protect and secure. So we want to talk about, we already talked about this a little bit, making sure your devices are updated, your iPads, your Android tablets, your phones, your Mac OS, and your Windows updated. Just a quick slide to show easy ways to look and make sure that, you know, in Windows, if that green check mark isn't there, then you're not updated. And in Mac, that's actually an older Mac screenshot, but it hasn't changed too much. But this is important because you assume it just happens. And sometimes it does. But you want to make sure it's happening. Our products will update for you. And then they'll pop up and say, there's an update, please reboot, you know, occasionally. And that is one way that we help keep these things secured and happening. One of the questions I often get at this point is, what happens when an update causes a bigger problem? And that can certainly happen. We don't update anything for 30 days. So if an update comes out today, your system won't see it for 30 days. That gives it time to show as a problem. We can go in and remove it from the library of updates if we need to. And we also count on, specifically in this conversation, Microsoft, having fixed it in those 30 days, because that is generally the case. 30-day-old updates generally don't break anything anymore. The only time that's not true is when it's considered a critical security update, and those will happen when they come out. Let's talk about the Stop, Think, Connect method. Stop, Think, Connect helps protect us from ourselves. When you see something, you don't just click on it, you stop. You think about it, does it look right? Does it make sense? Would a Nigerian prince give you $10 million? Well, if you know a Nigerian prince, then maybe, but none of us do. So odds are that that's not going to happen. If there's any doubt you connect with the person first. So you get an email from someone that doesn't look right. You know the person. Something about the email is not right. Some email systems will try and warn you to some extent of this. I know, our system guards will put a little banner up there. It might say that, we're not sure about this email, mark it as safe or delete it. The best thing to do in these situations is to connect with the person. Call them if you can. Or open a new email and type their email address in that you know what it is. Don't hit reply. Because you actually, unless you read the email headers, you don't know where it's going. It might say the person's name. And we also have had we have had a client that'll have the right name in the email at a subdomain that is their company name.gmail.com, which is not their email address. But if you're not looking, you don't see it. And even if you look, you might not notice. So you just type an email and say, did you really just ask me for a $500 iTunes gift card? Happens all the time. That's a very common one. And they'll say, no, what are you talking about? But the point is, you didn't just respond and give them an iTunes gift card, whoever was asking. If everything looks fine, then fine, you follow through. If they say, yes, that's actually from me, sorry, I know it looks a little sketchy, I guess I didn't think about that, then great. But the point is to keep us from reacting to things we see and have us think about it. Because, let me see, I don't know if it's later or not, but when you get an email that looks perfectly legitimate, I used to have a Best Buy email in here, but I don't think I have it in here anymore. It looks perfect. But you're thinking to yourself, I didn't order anything from Best Buy, did I? I don't know. I might have. Did I? I can almost never remember what I order sometimes. Boxes from Amazon show up on my porch. They have my name on them. I guess I ordered it. I don't know. But it happens all the time where I don't always remember what I ordered. So it's easy for those emails to make me click on them because it said, oh, your payment didn't go through. Oh, crap. Let me fix it. You click on the link, you give them a credit card number, and now you've just given them your credit card information. But it's easy to dissect those emails if you think to yourself, I don't think that's right. Let me go log into Best Buy's website. I'll go to bestbuy.com. I'll click login. I'll type in my username and password. But there's no order here. Or that's not the order I placed, maybe. We had a client who got something from QuickBooks saying that they paid an invoice. And when they asked me about it, I said, well, did you? And he's like, I don't think so. Like, okay, well, I would call my credit card company. Did I pay this invoice or not? They called their credit card company and there was nothing there. It was a fake invoice, but it looked pretty close to a QuickBooks invoice. But that's the key to it is don't hesitate to check. And we do sometimes because, oh, I don't have time for this or things happen. You just want to get through it. But Stop, Think, Connect method will save your bacon more than once. So we talked a little bit about email security. Spam is just any unwanted email, but phishing is something that will specifically ask you to do something and generally looks legitimate. And there are a number of types of phishing. The most common one these days is I can't think of the word, is spear phishing based on your social media. If I take an hour, I can find out enough about you to put together an email and get you to give me your information. It's not that hard. You're out there. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, if you're on these things, there's enough information out there to collect for me to know that you're a salesperson. This is the end of the quarter. I know that just because I know what the calendar looks like, and I know that you sell medical supplies, and I can now say that I have medical supplies that I want to sell because I got to get rid of them. Dude, do you want them? I can have them there for you tomorrow. I just need you to place the order. I'll sell them for half price and you can mark them up and sell them later. It's really easy to do, finding out information about you on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media. The action can be placing an order. It can be changing a credit card number. It could be changing your password. You will never get an email from Microsoft that says you have multiple Microsoft accounts. You need to change a password on one of them. That's not a thing. They never do that. But they sure look convincing. And then they tell you that if you don't do it, we're going to cut off all your accounts. Well, I don't want that to happen. So let me click on it. Turning off images in the email is something that's important too, because using Best Buy as an example again, the images all say Best Buy, but if you turn off the images and you don't see them, and instead you see the text behind them, you can tell it's not actually Best Buy. And most modern email systems will let you have them not be on by default, and then you can right click and see them if you want to. Never click on links in emails that don't look right. If you get an email from your bank that doesn't sound right, just go to the bank's website and log in. Don't click on the link. If you're overdrawn in your account, you'll see it. But don't believe the email. Never open attachments from someone you don't know. It's not from someone you know, or from like a company you're expecting. You know, if you have student loans, you get a PDF that's encrypted, you might be expecting that. But if you get it from, you know, Bob's Value Mart, that's probably not right. And always remember the stop, think, connect method when it comes to all of these things. So how do we help secure organizations? We deploy the tools that help create this protective surface. It keeps your devices updated, it keeps them monitored, and it keeps them safe. We see what happens on your devices and can help continually protect and monitor the status of them. We provide disaster recovery planning. So what I always say is all these tools are great. Nothing's perfect. The question isn't if, it's when. By having a solid disaster recovery plan that includes the ability to reconstitute your organization at any time somewhere else, you're never offline even if you get hit. Comprehensive cloud security and advice from your email about your web. It says this says websites, but so what that means is your whole cloud posture. Our products go out and look, and they can tell me that MJ has 43 things shared in OneDrive with no password on them. Is that a problem? Maybe, maybe not. Point is, we know. And we guarantee you can get cyber insurance. If you use our tools, you will get cyber insurance. No question. You will not be denied. So when you bring us to the table, we believe in holistic end-to-end protection. We start with your endpoints. We look at your servers. We look at your network. We look at everything that goes into your devices, managing them, securing them. Our basic package includes endpoint detection and response and system updates. So you're secured pretty much out of the gate with any services that you get from us. And then, of course, there are more services, but that's the basic idea. We strongly recommend workstation backups and digital password lockers, and we have those included in our packages too. Workstation backups are usually people say, what do I need to back up my workstations for? Or don't I just need to back up my servers? And that is what most people think, but the idea is that from a workstation perspective, you shouldn't be keeping a workstation for 8 years. You should be keeping it for 4, maybe 5. And then you should be swapping it out. Well, it's a heck of a lot easier to swap it out if all I have to do is log into it and everything comes back to it. So when you use things like Google Drive or OneDrive, they back everything up for you. Layer MDR on top of all of this protection, and you have someone who's watching all the time to keep you safe. And we work with everyone on a true business continuity plan. So it's not just the idea of I have backups, okay, my servers died, or because we have a lot of clients that have virtualized servers. So if that physical machine dies, all of those servers are offline. But with a business continuity plan, if that happens, or if you get hit with ransomware, everything can still be brought up somewhere else while we fix it. And then we can take all of these things and bring them back to what your actual goals are. This all sounds great, but if it doesn't actually get you where you need to go, it's not really helpful. So that is our talk for today. I hope that everybody learned something. The QR code you saw on screen help go to a form if you want more information. So please fill them out. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody. Oh, on time.
Change your phone number.